Hello and welcome to another episode of Internal Chatter. Joined by my co-host Sam Coons, I'm Justin Gaither. We have another exciting guest for you today. We're joined by Oakland A's farmhand and my longtime friend, Chase Cohen. Chase spent 3 seasons at Georgia Southern before being drafted in the 9th round of the 2018 MLB Amateur Draft by the Athletics. We loved having him on, so without further ado, here is Chase Cohen. All right, Chase, how we doing?
What's up, guys? Doing well. How are you?
Doing
Good,
very
man. Good.
well. Doing very well. So, we'll kind of start with just kind of how's COVID been for you? Obviously, minor league baseball player. Kind of what's the experience been like to this point for you?
Yeah, it's definitely been a change of pace, change of environment. Kind of got to adapt to it, obviously, like everybody else in any job. But we flew out to spring training. We stayed there 6 days, and I got an email confirm our flights and stuff. So we headed back out after 6 days, and then have been home since. So just trying to adapt training wise and throwing wise with minimal resources, and parks were closing down immediately, so it's kind of tough to get throwing in, but we figured it out, got on the schedule, so it's been better as of late for sure.
Yeah, what's like your kind of daily regimen been like, after that change?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so at first the A's weren't going to pay us, which I was fine with. We weren't doing anything. We were at home, so it was like whatever. It was whatever. But then they started paying us, so I took most of that money and built a home gym and got everything I needed. Got a lot of it off Facebook Marketplace, used stuff. Put it together piece by piece. I've been training either mornings or night, just based on my other schedule. Depending on when I can throw, I've been throwing 2 or 3 innings a week every Friday, every Friday or Saturday. Throw every day except for the day after. And other than that, just been trying to get good at golf. Hasn't turned out yet.
So waiting on that.
But yeah, other than that, trying to make some money on the side. I've been doing Uber Eats for the last week or so, trying to get back on that.
Yes, sir.
But just grinding it out, man.
Yeah, how's the short game looking?
Short game's fire. Drives need some work, though.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we talking slice of pizza, or what are we talking here?
We're talking 2 slices of pizza a swing, man.
Geez. 2 slices per. Well, that's a good deal. That's a bargain.
Yeah, 2 for 1.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, kind of take us back to, obviously you're in minor league baseball now, but kind of back to maybe late high school and that kind of recruiting process, getting recruited by, Division I schools and that whole process. Yeah,
it was crazy for sure. I knew after my freshman, sophomore year that I definitely wanted to play in college. I probably knew before that even, but made it a reality those 2 years. Focused on more pitching. Actually didn't really pitch till my senior year, a whole lot. Realized I couldn't really hit anymore, so I wanted to just focus on pitching. My senior year, I committed after my junior year. So my junior year, I went on a few visits to Georgia Southern, Sanford, and it just clicked with Georgia Southern. So it was really, I wouldn't say it was an easy way to get to that process, but it's an easy process once I figured out exactly where I wanted to be. And once I took my visit, and it was super easy. I think I committed maybe a week or 2 weeks after I visited in my junior summer. So then going into my senior year, it was nice knowing where I was going. I had a scholarship, which was awesome. So that whole process, Georgia Southern made it pretty easy to make my choice to where I wanted to be.
Yeah, and kind of talk about that experience of pitching and being a big name guy at a program like that. Kind of what was, obviously there's a lot you could say, but just kind of, what are your biggest takeaways from that experience of being an ace, being kind of, one of the staples of a rotation, and then being in, the lockdown guy in the bullpen, kind of that journey of baseball wise.
Yeah, it was crazy. Obviously, my first weekend as a freshman throwing against UGA at UGA when they were a top name school, and they still are. It was unreal. I didn't really know what I was feeling at the time until after it all happened. Right. And then I think I threw good at Georgia. Then I had a couple bad weeks, which against lower name schools, which was immediately humbling, obviously. So after that, it was just week to week basis. You got to do your stuff during the week to have results when you start. And then coming out of the pen my junior year, it was just like, I feel like that's like helped me a bunch in pro ball, because now I can start, I can come out of the pen, I can do long relief, because I have that that ability, I guess, just to go long innings still. But if they want me to come out of the pen, if they want me to start, that helps me. And just Georgia Southern taught me just to do anything to win, whether you're throwing a shutout or you've let up 14 runs and your team has 15, you're still winning the game, you're still competing. So Georgia Southern really taught me how to want to win, how to compete with myself, with others. So it was an awesome experience for 3 years.
Was that change from going from a starter to a reliever your idea, or was there kind of initially some pushback on that?
There was no pushback. It wasn't something I suggested, but it was brought to me by my head coach. And he was just like, I think it was honestly 2 weeks before the season or something. So I had prepared to be a starter the whole fall camp, fall inter squads, everything. And then he came to me and he was like, hey, we just need you in this role to win games. And I said, put me there, let's go. And then I just rode from there. I started a couple games my junior year and was able to still do that while competing out of the bullpen on the same weekends or the week before. So it was brought to me and I was ready to roll with it, whatever it took to win.
From a camaraderie standpoint, obviously, you play high school baseball, pretty much all the guys you're playing with, and you have for, a number of years prior to when you guys played together. College, it could be guys taken from, for Georgia Southern, probably guys taken from anywhere across the Southeast. You might have played against them, but kind of has that, especially when you're a freshman coming in, how do you guys immediately build that chemistry and camaraderie, off the field and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a good point. In high school, you're so close, everybody in the same neighborhood, same school, you see them every day. You definitely connect with the guys that you played against first. So like in our case, Justin, Eric Furphy and Therese Miller and all those names that played kind of near me or I played against in summer ball or high school. You definitely connect with those guys first, because you live with freshmen your freshman year, obviously in the dorms, and
right.
You're either right next door with them or you're with them. So you definitely grow with those guys first. But my freshman year, we had a couple of seniors that really stepped up and were all in for the program, didn't have pride because they were a senior, just like led the way and kind of taught you how to become a family. And you're with those guys so much and so often every day that you just mesh quickly. Obviously not everybody meshes it like perfectly immediately, but after time you all come down and you're one. And then tournament time, it's just like everybody, it's the most fun time of the year because everybody's together. It's the end of the year and you're just battling with your boys pretty much.
Right.
Talk about, obviously being a pitcher, consistency and control is really important at the D1 level. With your experience there, did you ever experience kind of a low of, your consistency wasn't where you wanted it to be, and kind of how did you prevail over that to ultimately, make a name for yourself?
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always kind of not struggled with, but definitely pressed myself to be better at. The consistent aspect, the less walks, more strikes percentage and stuff like that. It really, I attest it to the week-long preparation. So you have college, if you start on Saturday, you start the next Saturday. So it's a full week, which I wish I had taken way more seriously during the week. I kind of took for granted those extra days that I have, because now if you start Saturday, you have 4 days and you're starting again on the fifth day. So it's not, you definitely have to stick to your routine and your weekly process more in pro ball. But I definitely wish I had that set routine in college to go off of.
Kind of before we talk about obviously your pro career and all that, you spend a summer up in the Cape. What was that experience like? How did it come about? Kind of take us through that journey, because it seems to be a pretty prevalent theme amongst, Major League Baseball stars, is a lot of them who played, high levels of college ball. That's what they did too.
Yeah, for sure. Being in the Cape obviously was a huge honor to me. I'd heard about it. I'd known guys that had gone before me and was like super jealous, wanted to be in their position. Probably the best summer of my life. The people I stayed with, the host family, super Cape, super Boston family, which was awesome because I'm not from the North. I'm not used to the North, but it was love it. Oh my God, it was so awesome.
A few chowder heads.
Oh, baby, all over the place. But no, my coach pulled me aside, my college coach, after my freshman after my freshman summer, so it was my sophomore fall, and I didn't play freshman summer ball, so I never played summer ball. And he just pulled me over and he was like, "Hey, you're gonna go play in the Cave for Katuitt, and you're gonna have a contract. You're not gonna be like a temporary player." So knew I was going up there, and I was like just psyched to find out. And then got up there, and it was just everything I had hoped for and more. It was just best summer ever.
So your coach brings that to you then? You don't, send tape or anything like that? That's done by,
Right.
like, coaches?
Right. So other coaches have like superb connections to everywhere. Cape League, Coastal Plains League, like the Sun Belt League in Georgia. They have all those connections that either they reach out or the coach reaches out to them. Not recruiting, but just asking if they
What
want
guys
to
do
play
you
summer
have?
ball. Right. So if you're playing in the Cape, you don't really turn it down. So I was pumped
Right.
to get up there and pumped to spend the summer up there for sure.
Yeah.
Was that summer kind of instrumental to rising your draft stock at all, you think?
Yeah, I'd absolutely say so. A couple of the few scouts that saw me there were the first ones to reach out. My agent first saw me there actually and had messaged me. So yeah, I would definitely say it was instrumental in my draft stock and kind of getting that process started. Yeah, it was a good time. I was throwing hard. I was throwing well. I definitely learned a whole bunch from Mike Roberts and the staff that Katuitt had. So it was definitely instrumental in starting that process.
Yeah, kind of obviously building off that. So, your freshman year, for example, right? Let's say you finish your freshman year. Is the draft on your mind at that point? When do you start thinking about the draft? And then when does it kind of start to seem like, okay, this is probably going to happen here realistically?
Yeah, so the Cape was probably a good starting point, honestly. Freshman year, I didn't play summer ball after. Nobody was like, you don't really get contact after your freshman year unless you're somehow 21 and eligible for the draft. But that usually, if you're eligible, to be after your sophomore year.
Right.
But yeah, the Cape was probably the turning point, and then my junior fall, I was getting the letters from every team, contacted by every team, having meetings like every so often in person, on the phone. So that's when I kind of knew that like this is really about to happen.
Were the Raiders, were the Athletics extremely aggressive in contacting you, or did they kind of come on late, or
Yeah, they
when
were
did they
actually
arrive?
probably one of the later teams to contact me, which is crazy because I had already filled out so many forms and sent it all to this different scouts for different teams. And the A's were the one that I let sit on my desk a little bit, which is super funny. I didn't forget about it, obviously. Like, obviously it's always constant in your head, but it's just so much going on I think it was during the spring actually that they sent theirs out. So in mid-season, I decided to like focus on baseball, focus on school, and just kind of be in the present so that the future could happen. So I kind of like let it sit for a little bit. Sent it out a little bit later than the other ones, and my roommate actually was like, "Yeah, that's the team that's going to draft you now," and he was right. So it's kind of funny that they were one of the later teams, one of the later ones I sent back. So,
Did you have a general idea as to like what round you were going to go in? So like, leading up to that?
a little bit. I was definitely hoping for top 10. I had heard like rounds 5 to 8-ish, and then obviously expected a little bit later than the range that I had heard, just to not necessarily get like just be realistic, with how many people and how many negotiations go on. That day was crazy. I had a couple phone calls in the morning and then nothing until the 9th round. So it was weird sitting for that long. It was kind of frustrating, but once it happened, it was pretty much all worth it.
What's the first thing that hits? Is the first thing relief, or is the first thing like, let's grind? Like, what if you can remember? I could also imagine you just kind of blacking out for a minute, but what's
Yeah.
kind of the first emotion you remember thinking after you hang up from that call?
Yeah, it is kind of relief at first, and it's like those 5 minutes of relief, and then it sets in like, all right, what do we do now? Like, how do we start this process? How do we get
to
going?
Work, yeah.
So right before the phone call, we had waited. So I'd had a phone call. I'm not going to name the team, but we did a phone call from a team that said potentially 3rd round for less money. We negotiated, just waiting on a phone call basically for the next rounds from that team and then other teams that were interested in me. I think it got to like the 8th round. Bunch of right-handed pitchers had been taken off high school, college, like back and forth. And I went outside with my brother just to shoot hoops, just because I was just it was frustrating. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
But we go outside, and we probably shoot 2 or 3 times, and my dad comes out, and he goes, "Hey, you're the next pick." And I was like, "All right, well, I should probably go inside
All right,
now."
let me drain this 3. I'll be right in.
Yeah. Hold on, Dad. My foot's on the line. I gotta make this.
Yeah. Love that.
So we go inside. All my family's there, and I think they have video. But like you said, I kind of just blacked out.
Right.
But we go inside. Sure enough, next pick, 9th round, and it was crazy. We were going crazy.
That's dope.
Did you have the A's hat ready to go to put on?
I did not. I think we went to the mall the next day.
You had to go to Lids and pick one up?
Yeah, we went, exactly. I think we did go to Lids soon. We went to Lids and we got some hats for the family and everything.
The Lids at North Point Mall is a well-traveled ground.
It's ideal.
Yeah. So kind of take us through, I don't think a lot of people know, I at least it's not, readily available knowledge for me. What's that next, 48 hours like, or if it's not immediate, what's that kind of next step? Are they flying you out to Arizona? Do they, for a 9th round pick, I'm assuming they're probably not flying you to Oakland for anything.
Right.
What are the next steps after that? Because obviously, you have a day to celebrate, and then it's to work. It's back to work.
Yeah. So I want to say, I'm sure it could be looked up exactly what day, but I think it was. I want to say it was June 5th, but I remember I might have been a Thursday or something. Mm-hmm. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I can't even remember. But we met with my area scout to sign all the official papers and the contracts and everything. I think we met with him maybe Friday, and then I flew out Sunday. So you had the chance to get out. Honestly, it might have been a week. I'd have to look it up. But the next step was to sign the papers with him and then fly out. It was no longer than a week that I flew out to Arizona on a Sunday. Right.
And then it's just, do they kind of sit you all down in a room and say, all right, fellas, here it is, like,
So the first thing we did was all the physical stuff, all the EKGs, the heart rate stuff, the X-rays if you needed them, MRIs if you needed them, but luckily I didn't need any of that. We didn't need the MRIs, but we did X-rays, the EKG on our hearts, all that stuff. So that took up a whole day, just painful day, long process, just busing from one place to another, from the facility to the hard place. But it was that was like the first thing we did, which was kind of good that we did that before anything, because you get acclimated. You're in a hotel with another guy, so you meet. It's crazy. You meet just new people, and you're just living with them the first night for that first 2 weeks. I think I was in Arizona, just going through camps, throwing bullpens, throwing like simulated innings, scrimmages to our own team. And then after 2 weeks, I flew out to Vermont to the short season team for the rest of the summer.
What's do they kind of lay out any sort of roadmap for you guys when you first get there? Do they say, look, Chase, we see you as a guy who's going to be a middle inning reliever for us, in with the big club. The plan is we're going to send you here for this year. We're going to have you move here. Is there sort of any roadmap for development, or is it just kind of, every man for themselves?
It's kind of, I wouldn't say every man for themselves, because you still like work off others and you're in groups with others. So you you get grouped up based on more spring training. You get grouped up. Like the first few weeks we're in Arizona, it's basically just trying to get a baseline for what you can do and what you naturally do. I remember they told us to not change anything. We're not going to give you instruction for the first week or so. We're just going to let you be yourself, and then kind of work on what we need to work on, which was awesome, because you get to be you. Mm-hmm. You're not uncomfortable with doing something else yet. So I wouldn't say there's a roadmap, but you get a pretty good feel of what your role is going to be during spring training, during the year, and how they throw you in those simulated games.
Very cool.
Was there a big adjustment period, would you say, from leaving college, going through that draft process, and starting those simulated innings and throwing with all professional guys? Was there an huge adjustment, or was it pretty seamless?
There was an adjustment for sure. Just I I mean, location-wise, the guys you're around, the weather, everything in that aspect. But all those guys that just got drafted are doing the same thing as you are. So if you start adjusting without needing to and pressing without needing to, you're just kind of making yourself think instead of like just doing what you got drafted for, basically.
Right. So let's fast forward a little bit to, last year. First full season in the minors. You're in, full season A, which is pretty standard for most, draft picks. Your first full year, you're going to spend the year in A ball. You're in a small town in Wisconsin. It's a long season. What was it like? It's got to have a lot of ups and downs. What was your experience like?
Yeah, it's for sure a long year. It's definitely different than anything you've ever really experienced in college ball or even in short season. We were at that point, you're with guys you're with guys that you either played with the last season in short season or were with in spring training in those groups. So the guys already, which is cool. Your role, basically. So I knew I was opening day starter that year going into it from spring training. The weather in Wisconsin is way different than Arizona. It was freezing. We got snowed out in May, which I had never even heard of. But it's all an experience, and it was all just like, it just builds everything up. I lived with awesome guys. We had an apartment about 10 minutes away from the stadium. We had a 3.5 bedroom apartment with 2 bathrooms. I think we had maybe 9-10 guys living in there at one time. So it was a blast. We had a blast with it.
How do you have a 3.5 bedroom apartment?
So our half bedroom was like a full bedroom with 0 doors on it. So it had like the kitchen framing.
Right.
You know what I mean? That wide open. So we called it a half. We were not calling it a 4 bedroom.
Right. The landlord's not calling it a half, but the residents might.
Yeah, we'll pay for 4, but we're not calling it 4.
Right. Is it, you hear stories about minor league life and how it's just kind of like, just making
real.
do with
It's real.
making do with what you got. Is there validity to that?
The grind.
To a certain extent. Like, I was fortunate enough to sign for a good amount of money and I was set up well so that I didn't have to. I wasn't scraping the bottom of the barrel by any means, but
Right.
You do live on a budget no matter what you signed for. You're all getting paid the same money during the year, so we definitely were smart about what we spent our money on, what we ate. We get meals provided by the club, so if you can use that to your advantage, you can save a good bit of money. I slept on an air mattress all year in that apartment.
Beautiful.
But you have to love it, so we loved every second of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Was that community like a baseball community? I grew up in Maine. We have a AA team up here, and like the city really like is a big part of the team. Was that the experience there, or?
To a certain extent, I think they're building a new stadium in Beloit right now, and that should get it really, really rolling. It was just like I don't know. There was fans, and they were into it. The host families were awesome, so I would say the city was definitely a part of it and definitely contributed to it. Made it all possible. Made the games more fun. Everywhere we went on the road was fun, so it was a good league to be in.
So, obviously, minor league baseball and baseball as a whole is changing. Obviously, the pandemic has played a factor, but even before that, you could kind of see the fabric changing a little bit in terms of teams maybe cutting affiliates and stuff like that. Obviously, shortening the amateur draft.
Mm-hmm.
How do you view that affecting you? And are there other guys who you played with? You hear so much about guys who it's like, this guy was drafted in the 28th round or the 37th round or whatever, and a guy like that never gets a shot. How do you see that affecting you and some of the other guys that you have played with in the minor leagues?
Yeah, I mentioned we all get paid the same now, whatever your bonus was, whether you're a first rounder, a 9th rounder, a 28th rounder. So doesn't affect me as much. You got to work just as hard to beat those guys out that they do have to beat you out. Obviously, coming from the top rounds, like the bottom rounds, rather, like 30 and on, 20 and on, you got to work harder. But if those guys are working harder than me, then I can't let that affect me because I gotta still go and get my own, and just like they have to. So it doesn't affect me as much. The affiliates, that's something I can't really control. So
Right.
Can't let it affect you. You just got to keep going. Figure it out if it happens. But just hope that it does and keep working.
Yeah.
What piece of advice or instruction so far at the pro level do you think has been the biggest to your game and evolving your pitching?
Just that consistency. The one thing they really preach is that the difference between minor leaguers and big leaguers are just that how consistent they are on a week-to-week basis, whether you're a starter, reliever, closer. I mean, they talk about him. That guy's locked down. That guy's a big name starter like Garrett Cole. Or I mean, they're so consistent. They attack the zone. They get ahead. They don't walk a lot of people. So that's one thing that I've really been definitely focusing on. Just try and throw strikes, get ahead, attack the hitter, and just be confident in your ability to pitch.
Yeah, you really just want to emulate guys like, Bartolo Colon especially.
Yeah, his form, his body, it's just all what you want to be.
Mainly, you just want to exactly mirror Bartolo Colon.
Yeah, if you do
Man
that,
can hit the ball too.
he can slap the ball around the yard.
Absolutely get into it. So, kind of, I guess, transitioning away from that a little bit into that topic, were there any moments last year where you're kind of like, I made it, or, is there a moment, and this could be from college career too, just like a moment where you're walking off the mound like, I'm that guy, is there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You definitely have. I mean, I had a few streaks. I had a rough first start in Beloit, but then I think I had 3 where it was just dominant back to back to back. And once you get on that high horse, though, man, it just humbles you real quick. So
yeah, exactly.
Kind of like getting drafted, you had that 5 minutes of I made it, but then you got to get back on that routine, that week to week basis, and you got to unfortunately forget about the one you just did and go on to the other one. But yeah, I'm 100% for just being yes sir and being the man and just letting people know you just owned them. So
yeah,
yes sir.
Have there been any guys? Obviously, the Midwest League probably isn't the most offensive league in minor league baseball. Were there any dudes who'd step in the box every time and you're just like, oh Jesus, and then kind of how do you handle that whenever you see that guy step up?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because on like every MLB questionnaire that the team sent me, it was like, who's the toughest hitter, or who's the hitter you feared the most? And I was just like, dude, I know these names, but I don't remember which one was.
Justin Gaither, did you write his name?
Justin Gaither.
You wrote down Zach Scher.
Yeah. But like, they're playing baseball, you're playing baseball. You got to put in your mind that hitting is very, very hard. And like, if you can just do what you do and spot up pitches and sequence it right, you can get anybody out no matter what.
Yeah, it's a good mindset.
So what are you looking most forward to, going forward? Obviously it's a crazy time right now, but.
Yeah. So last off season, the true off season, about a year from now, I moved to Statesboro, back to Georgia Southern, just to train with my buddy that also got drafted by the A's. For the off season, we lived together, set a really good foundation, lifting and throwing wise, and obviously was super excited to get back out there this past March. That got shut down quick, but kept lifting, kept eating right, kept throwing. I have the home gym now that I do all the same stuff. I'm pretty much stronger than I've ever been, I feel. And so it's just exciting to be able to get back out there and start up the true off season again, and just prepare for the year like I did last year and throughout this whole quarantine thing.
When you go into spring training, obviously, everyone's fighting for the same thing. Do you have an expectation when you go in of like, okay, I'm going to start the season in Stockton, and then my goal is by, August or the All-Star break or whatever, I'd like to, see if I can get called up to AA, which is Midland for them, I believe.
Yep.
Is that a factor, or is it literally just I'm taking the ball today, I'm going to throw the best I can, and whatever happens, happens?
Right. So that's how it always should be. That's
Okay.
how I kind of want to be and how I plan to be. You always have the expectation or idea of where you're going to be based on the last year, based on spring training. Kind of going into spring training, you pretty much know, unless something crazy happens. God forbid people ahead of you get hurt, but that's kind of the way that they do the moves during the year. And if somebody moves up, then it's a chain reaction. So it's all based on components, including yourself, but other than yourself as well. So it's a whole grand scheme of things bigger than you. So you kind of just have to go out, get the ball, attack every time. Just do your best and give them a reason to move you up, basically. But All-Star break is always like hopeful, and you want to get moved up, or the end of short season you want to get moved up. So hopefully we can make a few jumps here in the next few years.
What would you say from last year? And this doesn't have to be on the field. This could just be like, obviously, you have plenty of stories from high school where you're just kind of like, what the hell just happened? How did I, from your first full season of professional baseball, were there any kind of those moments where, every time you look back, you can't help but, just start laughing or anything like that?
Yeah, it was a bunch of stuff in the house, actually. On the field, obviously, there's a bunch of little funny things, but on a day-to-day basis, it's pretty similar with what you encounter in the dugout with all of us idiots in there. So
Right.
just like a bunch of stuff in the house, like living on an air mattress, like I'll never forget that. Just like the guys I live with, the people you're around, the staff you're around, everything definitely leaves a memory in your head. But I'm trying to think of anything that really, really stands out.
Anything PG-13 or better?
Let me try and think. We played a lot of video games in the house.
Sure. Sure.
That was when Fortnite was still a thing, so that was hype. A lot of guys went to every casino we could find on the road, just to break up the monotony.
Little 100 on black.
Oh yeah, we had a couple of guys that just love roulette. We lived at the craps table, blackjack, everything. So we made it fun when we went on road trips, and we spent our per diem wisely.
So you get Jack 2. Are you hitting or are you staying?
What does the dealer have?
Let's say he's showing a 5.
We're staying, baby.
We're staying.
We're staying.
We're staying, and then he flips it, and it's a 6.
We're staying, and he flips a 6, and you would have lost. You would have lost anyway. So
there
who
it
cares?
goes. Love that. All right.
So are you a black or a red guy though?
Oh,
I stay
or
away
green.
from the
Or green.
Or green if you're
Or
feeling
green.
lucky.
Green's a huge underdog. I'm always for the underdog.
The
But I
payout.
try and I stay away from the roulette table.
There we go.
Oh, man, I can't stay away.
All right. So this is a recurring segment on
Yes.
on the podcast here.
I'm
So
scared.
every guest is asked the same question. So, you're driving down. We'll say McGinnis Ferry here for the sake of the argument. You're driving down McGinnis Ferry. You're going to pick up some cookout. You're gonna go get a $4 meal.
Yep.
What
Little milkshake.
windows are up or down? There's no one else in the car. What song are you absolutely belting at the top of your lungs
On the way to cookout.
on the way to cookout?
Nobody else in the car.
You're driving 70 in a 35. Just kidding.
I mean, if I got OG Bobby Johnson on, I'm going 70 in a 35. That's all I'm saying.
So that is that the belt though? What's the song?
That might be the song.
OG Bobby Johnson.
Yeah, write it down.
Write it down. Pencil that in.
You've heard it, right, Justin?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You gonna give us any or?
Yeah, you.
No, I don't. I'll plead my fifth on that one.
You want to give us a taste?
Nah, you're fine.
Is that? Did you guys have like walkout music at all in Beloit?
We did, yeah. We had walkout songs.
So did you go with OG Bobby Johnson?
That was not. I think they would never have fans at the game again. I went with. It was High End by Chris Brown and Young Thug, I believe.
Yeah.
So not much better than OG Bobby Johnson.
everything,
But,
Yeah, I was gonna say that the Beloit crowd might appreciate John Denver a little bit more.
yeah.
Oh man, it's a good
Sorry to
pick though.
disappoint.
I enjoy that pick.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Appreciate it.
Our last guest was anything by Tupac. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm
We're
noticing.
same genre.
I
Noticing
like
a
the theme. I like the
Yeah.
theme we
There
have.
you go. There you go.
All right. Well, Chase, we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Absolutely.
It's really awesome to get insight from someone with it's just an experience that you don't really hear a lot about. You hear about guys when they make it to the show, but that's only part of the journey. And it's a long road, obviously, and not everyone makes it there. But it's still it's an awesome journey, and I appreciate you taking the time to share it with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking to me anytime.
Good to meet you, man. Good luck.
Yeah, good
to
to meet you too. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining us for episode 3 of the Internal Chatter podcast. Special thanks once again to our guest, Chase Cohen, as well as our editor, Jacob Franklin, and social media content coordinator, Steven Ontiveros. For Justin Gaither, I'm Sam Coombs. Stay tuned, folks. We'll chat soon.